When you've had a painful past, trauma-bonded relationships feel like home. So today I want to talk about 3 major warning signs that you are becoming trauma-bonded. And I have a lot to say about this because I've been through trauma-bonded relationships myself. Let's start by first talking about what a trauma bond is. So a trauma bond is the intense emotional connection and pull that you feel towards someone who is harmful to you, like in an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship. It's an addictive pull that keeps you in the relationship even though it's hurting you and even though it's not good for you. So these are not good relationships to be in. Again, these can be in toxic dynamics, addictive relationships. It's not something you want to move towards. There are very clear signs that you are getting into a toxic relationship. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to share some of my own experiences with going through this and how you can spot it when you're dating so that you don't get into one of these painful relationships, or at least you don't get too deep. Once you see the signs, you can get yourself out. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Lindsay. I am the Real Love Alchemist. I help my clients go from bad relationships to real love with the magic of subconscious work. If you're interested in learning more about how I do that, you can click on the link in the description to learn more about how to work with me. So, warning signs you're getting into a trauma-bonded relationship. So before I talk about the warning signs, I just want to mention, and I've got some notes here that I'm looking at here. I want to mention that, like I talked about in the beginning, trauma bonds, when you've had painful past relationships, they can feel so good at times. If you've had painful experiences with caregivers or painful experiences with other people when you were younger, or even just earlier relationships in your life, if you've experienced things like that, you can feel so drawn to someone because those dynamics are familiar to you. They're so unconscious that you can be really incredibly attracted to and drawn to somebody who's abusive to you, who is just not good for you because of the wounds from your past. It's a really powerful dynamic and it happens all the time, but it's not real love. So many of us confuse that trauma bonded, really intense unconscious attraction with real healthy love. So let's talk about the 3 warning signs that you might be getting into this kind of dynamic with someone. The first sign is that the relationship feels euphoric, almost like you're addicted to them. And I would argue that you actually probably are. And I can tell you that when I was going through this, I was in an abusive relationship with someone who was narcissistic. And in the very beginning, when we first met, we met online, and every time I talked to this person, I felt like I was on cloud 9. It was crazy. So I was going through spiritual awakening at the time. I'm actually going to make a couple of videos coming up about my origin story of how I got to this point doing this type of work. But I'm probably going to also make another video about my spiritual awakening experience. Anyway, so that's coming up. But I was going through spiritual awakening, and if you know what that's like, if you're going through it yourself, you become very sensitive to emotions, to your own internal feelings, to energies, things like that. And so I was in that place and I was really sensitive. I was feeling a lot of emotions, and so getting in touch with this person was like bliss times 10. And so all I could think about was seeing this person again, talking to this person. It was really intense. And if you were just observing me at the time, you would probably say that I was really distracted. Like I walked around kind of like with tunnel vision, just like only thinking about this person and trying to rearrange my schedule to make sure that I was available for this person, like whenever they wanted to get in touch with me. And so, yeah, it was really like all I could think about was this person. And it was just like getting through the day to get to the time when we were going to talk again. And there was this one time where we were having a video chat because we had met online, and I could sense that something had shifted in him. And this happened a lot because this was somebody who was narcissistic and there was so much off and on with him, so much push-pull. So I could sense that something had shifted with him. And I could feel that he was starting to pull away. And so we got off the call and I didn't hear from him for a little while, a couple days, I think. And this was even before we were dating. We were just talking at that point. And I felt terrible. I honestly felt like I got hit by a truck. I was just down. I could barely get out of bed because of that withdrawal from him. Now, if I knew what I knew now, I would say, oh my gosh, that's a huge sign that this is not a good person for me. But I didn't know it at the time. All I knew was I felt terrible, and all I could think about was talking to this person again. And that was the beginning of that addictive dynamic that I had to him. So that was kind of how the cycle was in that relationship. It was that really intense euphoric feeling when we could connect again, when we were on, and then feeling devastated when he pulled away, when he withdrew. So if you are feeling like you are on cloud nine with somebody, if it's feeling like this is just the most intense experience you've ever felt, that's a warning sign to slow it down, dial it back, take a pause, and really take a look at what you're experiencing. Because that's not how healthy love looks like. Healthy love develops a lot more slowly. You will still feel some excitement. You will still feel some infatuation. But it's not those super intense highs where it feels like you have just met the greatest love of your life. Now, you could still feel that in a healthy relationship, but the intensity of it is much different. Euphoria, going so high with someone, typically means that this is not going to be a good relationship for you. It typically means you're starting to enter a trauma bond. So he was like a drug for me, and I would say that I was in an addictive relationship at that point. And again, that's not what a healthy relationship looks like. You're going to have excitement, yes, you're going to be interested in that person, but it's not so intense, it's not so all-consuming like it was for me in the very beginning of that relationship. So the second warning sign that you might be getting into a trauma bond relationship, a trauma bond situation, is things are moving really, really fast, and there's this sense of urgency to the relationship. Now, I can tell you for me, in this relationship, I absolutely felt like there was a sense of urgency and like things were moving fast. And at the time, so again, I was going through spiritual awakening, I was super spiritual, I thought, oh, well, this just means this is the right person. And oh, look, things are happening so quickly, so easily. This must be synchronicity. There were actually synchronicities for me. And I talk about those in another video, but what they were really meaning. But there was a lot of that. It felt like I had to keep up this pace of the relationship. Like I had to keep saying yes. I had to keep moving forward. Otherwise, the relationship wasn't going to be there. Like if I didn't move at the pace that this other person was wanting me to, they would be gone. And that is not healthy. If I, again, knew what I knew now, back then, that would have been a big clue to me. Whoa, I need to pull back. I need to slow this down. Because if I slow down and this relationship falls away, then that is a very clear sign to me that this was not meant to be to begin with. But I didn't know that. And so I just kept trying to keep up this fast pace. And it did feel like a sense of urgency. That really is the best way to describe it. Like I have to keep moving at this pace, otherwise it's not going to work out. And I think that's because this wasn't a healthy dynamic. I think it was because this was the person I was with. If I really didn't keep up with it, it was not going to last. They had that urgency and I had to follow it. So that's a sign, if you're feeling that this isn't the right person for you. Because healthy love, again, develops slowly. It is going to be there even if you're taking your time, even if you need to go slowly for your own reasons. Maybe you're still healing from a bad relationship. Real love it's gonna last. You don't have to rush it. You can take as long as you need. That's what healthy love looks like. So just to review a second, the first sign that you might be in a trauma bond is that the relationship feels euphoric. That's a really early warning sign. The second sign is that you're feeling a sense of urgency. Feels like the relationship is moving really, really fast and you're kind of rushing. The last sign here that you might be in a trauma bonded relationship or you're just getting into one is if you are ignoring the red flags and you're making excuses for them. So most of us, when we're getting into this situation, we are kind of aware of red flags, or maybe we at least just know what we don't like and what makes us uncomfortable, but we are ignoring it or we're making excuses for it. And I did this. I wasn't aware of red flags back then, but I knew that certain things didn't make me comfortable, but I really excused them. And for me, the way that I excused it was, well, this person was farther ahead of me spiritually. Like I had this person on a pedestal. This was a spiritual teacher. And I thought that they were helping me or guiding me. And so I saw this person through this lens of, well, this is just what has to happen in order for me to learn, or in order for me to understand something. He's just helping me. He's just teaching me. He's just guiding me. Now, it might not look like that for you. It might look like something different. It might look like, well, I see these things happening and I don't like them and I'm not happy with them, but he's had a really tough childhood. He's been so vulnerable with me and so open, and I know he struggled with things in the past, and I know he has a good heart and he loves me. It could look like that. This can take many different forms, but really the underlying theme here is that you're not comfortable with the things that are happening, but you're making excuses for them or just ignoring them. The reason we do this is because the attraction, the intensity of the feelings that we feel for someone can be so intense that, like I talked about in the beginning, the relationship feels so euphoric, it becomes like an addiction. It feels like you got that tunnel vision. No, I don't want to see that stuff, because all I can think about is hearing their voice again, is seeing them again, is being intimate with them again. That's what keeps us in that cycle. So if you find yourself, now this is hard actually, it's much easier said than done, but if you start to realize that you are making excuses for somebody, or you're ignoring things that typically you wouldn't ignore, like maybe if these were showing up in a different person, you would so see it right away and you'd be like, oh yeah, this is not for me. If you're sensing a change within yourself, that's a pretty clear warning sign that you might be getting into a trauma bonded situation. So what do you do if you realize you might be getting into a situation like this, but you're feeling so emotionally connected with somebody that you're wondering, just how do I get out of this? What do I do? Well, what I would say to you is get some support. These situations, these trauma bond dynamics, are incredibly hard to break free from without the right support. I don't recommend trying to do this yourself. It'd be like, like if you have any other addiction, we typically don't say well, just figure it out yourself. Just muscle through it. We don't say that. We say go to therapy, go to a rehab, get into a 12-step program. We tell people to get support. This is really no different. Even if you're in the very early stages of going through something like this, make no mistake, these dynamics are addictive. And so you have to treat it as such, meaning you have to reach out for support. So I'm here for you if you're going through that. Again, the link to work with me is in the description. I specialize in helping my clients release the subconscious blocks, the subconscious stuff that is keeping you stuck in a trauma bonded situation. Because what's at the root of trauma bonds are emotional energies. That's the glue that keeps you in a situation like that. So I help my clients to release those emotional energies so they can break free from trauma bonds. So I'm here. You can talk to a therapist. They even have love addiction programs. Now, I'm not saying that if you're in a trauma bonded situation, you're a love addict, but you might find those resources helpful for what you're going through. Really, just anywhere where you feel understood and safe and supported, that's where I would recommend you go to help you figure out how to get out of a dynamic like this. Because it's hard, it's painful. The only way out of a trauma bond is to feel the pain. And I hate that that's how it is. I wish there was another way, but once you break free and you go through that initial withdrawal period where it is really painful, then you're free to find real love, to find healthy love. And I went through this too. And yeah, it's brutal to go through a trauma bond situation and to break out of it. But I can tell you, it is 100% worth it. My life is so much better now. I'm in a healthy relationship where I feel so loved and so cherished and so secure. It's worth every single bit of pain that I went through to break out of a trauma bond like that. So if this is you, if you're in that situation, like I said, I'm here to help. There is hope. You can break out of it and you can move on to real healthy love. So I really just touched on what exactly a trauma bond is here in this video, but if you want to learn more about it, like more about how it forms, what's really going on, and how to break free, check out this video here.